I had it in my head for like years that I want to move back eventually, or that was maybe like my fantasy ever since I moved to the UK, because I did feel kind of isolated. Like I didn't really, in Bristol specifically, actually I don't think there was anybody like else my age who was from my country that was like close by. There were other families, we would maybe meet up with my family like every once in a while, but they were like in other neighborhoods and it's all spread out. So I didn't really have anybody from my country that was my age or similar age like close around.
Okay.
So that was kind of lonely, and I was like, okay, well, I'll move back at some point and I'll be with my friends and like meet other cool people and I'll go back.
This is the Back to Bulgaria podcast. Discover life in Bulgaria, one story at a time.
Hello everyone, welcome to Back to Bulgaria, the podcast that will help you gain a perspective of what it's like to live and thrive in Bulgaria. I'm your host, Anna Maria, a crazy American-born Bulgarian who has lived in many different cities, but now I've chosen to make Sofia, Bulgaria my home. Together with my sister, who is just as crazy, we decided to start this podcast to showcase the amazing stories of people who have chosen to move or actively stay in Bulgaria and are now doing awesome things in this country. We'll discuss a large variety of topics, from the basics of living in Bulgaria to building a career here, developing relationships, and really just discussing the topics that matter to people who are interested in making a real impact and create real change in Bulgaria. So today I'm here with Gabriel Marchev. He is the CEO of Web Craftsmith, which is a digital agency that helps e-commerce companies start and scale through sales-driven website design. And I actually just met him today, which is very cool.
Yeah, it was awesome to meet you.
Yeah, he is actually a reference from Stoyan, who was our first podcast on Back to Bulgaria.
Awesome.
Which is very cool. So Gabriel has actually lived in Bulgaria now for a year and a half.
Yeah, since November 2021.
Yeah, after living in the UK for...
Yeah, so I lived in the UK for around 13 years. That's where I grew up.
Yeah, you said your family moved there when you were 10 or 11?
Yeah, so when I was around 9, my mother decided to move to Bristol in the UK. And a little bit after that, I moved over as well. And yeah, I grew up in Bristol, then studied at university in another city. So.
Very cool. So can you actually give us an idea, share with us where you were and what you were doing during that time in the UK? What was your experience there? Of course, there was a lot of things that probably happened. You were quite young when you went.
Yeah.
But I think this is something that quite a few people experience, like when their parents, moved abroad, when they were quite young. You probably got used to life there. So give us an idea of what you were doing and how it was.
Yeah, so definitely it was a bit of a maybe culture shock in terms of like the styles of communication. At least that was my experience as far as I remember it. I remember I was quite excited actually because, you're flying on a plane for the first time, you're 10, you don't know anything about the world. And you're like, yeah, I get to go somewhere else. I would actually say it was a bit difficult just getting used to the way people communicated because, there's a way that in Bulgaria, for example, people joke with each other and like they have their own like cultural jokes and things like that, where it's completely different in the UK. Like the style of communication is different. So took a while to get used to.
Yeah.
Like for me, speaking English actually wasn't an issue because my mother had paid somebody to like just teach me privately like a few hours a week. So then I would be like, memorizing all the words, like writing them down, like 3 lines each word, the typical thing to memorize all the words.
So you had learned English before going there?
Yeah, it was fine for me to speak. The actual language wasn't a barrier. It was more so, I guess the challenge was just the communication in general and like making new friends, and you don't know much about the country, you don't know much about the education. You're kind of afraid because you're like, oh, my friends are gone. Like I'm all by myself now. I have to do everything again.
You start over, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So that was interesting. It wasn't, I didn't have like any sort of crazy like childhood growing up in the UK. It was pretty standard, I would say. And then in terms of university, it's actually quite funny because I do think that university in the UK is a bit different from Bulgaria.
Oh, okay. How so?
Maybe people have a bit more autonomy, maybe because like I know it's typical for people in Bulgaria when they go to university, they usually still like live with their parents, for example, or like they're in the same city and they just go. And whereas in the UK, like it's very common to just move away and go somewhere else. It's actually almost even like
Probably live in a dorm.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, you're still gonna live in the same city? Like, are you crazy? You can go somewhere else and live there. Yeah, and like not live with your family. So I think I'm grateful for that because I think it gave me a bit more like chance to be more responsible and independent. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's similar in the States, actually. When you go out to college or university, usually, I'd say more than half of people probably move away and live in dorms or apartments around the university. But there is people that stay home and save money. Because that's another thing in the States that is another topic. But So what were you studying in the UK?
Yeah, so I did computer science. Very, very fun, I know. I decided to do that. Trying to think. University was quite interesting purely because there's like so many, especially I don't know how about other universities. So I went to like University of Reading, which is really funny because it's spelled like reading. Yeah. So it's like you go to the University of Reading. I'm like, what?
Is that in London or
no? That was like 20 minutes, 30 minutes west of London.
Okay. Oh, like west of the city or west
of like the actual. So it's a separate town.
Because I know it's a huge city.
Yeah. Actually, there's now like an underground line to it.
Okay.
It's called the Elizabeth line, so it even goes there now.
Yeah. Okay.
But what I remember vividly about it was very multicultural, or at least my experience was, which is I think something that you don't really get here, for example, because everybody's from Bulgaria. Even when I lived, when I know about people like from other countries who study here, at least in Plovdiv, where I was living up until now, they were saying that the foreign students and the Bulgarian students study separately, so they have separate schedules. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm like,
that was so weird. But it's cool because I got to meet people from like Malaysia, from like Germany, from like America, from all sorts of places in the world, like the Middle East. And it was very cool to see like different people's like Nigeria, different people's like perspectives on life and how they do things.
Yeah, I guess like here probably in university, if you're studying in Bulgarian, you would be in a class with mainly Bulgarians. But if you're studying probably in English, there'd probably be a bit more diversity. But yeah, I can relate that. that's something I do miss a little bit, even though Sofia is quite diverse. I do miss the large diversity that was in Houston, Texas, because it was the most diverse city in the States.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's at least last I checked, the most diverse city in the States, more than New York.
Do you know what I remember? Because I did go to Houston in 2016 because my family, my aunt and my uncle, they lived there for around 10 years. They moved to New Hampshire now, but they were in Houston, in Texas. And like the people were so nice.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I go to like the restaurant and they're like, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm so-and-so. I'll be your waiter." And then they're like, "Whoa, I was not expecting this."
Yeah, Southern hospitality.
Yeah. And even in the gym, I'm looking for something and everybody in the gym is like, "Oh, cool, it's here." And like, "Where are you from? You have an accent? Oh my God." I'm like, whoa. Like everybody's so positive. It's so interesting.
That's true. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
I am proud to have lived in Texas.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a cool place.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of get back to, so you said you studied in the UK, you studied computer science. Did you have a Bulgarian community in the UK, or would you often come back to Bulgaria? Did you have like that connection there, or? Yeah,
so ever since I moved to the UK, like every summer or at least once a year, I would go back there. Ever since I moved to the UK, except for 2020 because of COVID.
Yeah. Okay.
But apart from that, every year I would be going back for like a month, 2 months, maybe like 2 times a year.
Okay.
So
for the summer.
Yeah, for the summer or for like Easter break when I was like still in school. So I came from like a small town, Dimitrovgrad. So I would have like all my friends there from like kindergarten. I would still know them and they would still be in school. So I would go back and we meet them and we maybe still communicate online for like Facebook or whatever. So I still kept in touch with them throughout the whole time, and we're still friends now. In the UK as well, like I have friends, Bulgarian friends from university here as well, because there is actually, I think in every university or most universities, there's like some sort of, if there's like Bulgarian people, usually they do end up building some sort of like community, as far as what I've noticed. Because, you know, we were doing maybe like organizing events or like doing parties or house parties and like doing things together. Because I think especially for them, so like I grew up in the UK, so it's easy for me to communicate with everybody there.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing, you know, if you're like 18, 19, you've grown up in this one single country, now you move to like, you know, London or like some other like major UK city or even other country. It's so diverse and you're not used to how things are, like the way people are and how things are done. It maybe seems foreign to you and you maybe feel alone. So I think that's like a great way for like people to bond still, you know, like, hey, we're still from the same background. You don't have to feel alone, and you know, you can still have your like things from back home here.
Yeah, it does seem like diaspora, I guess, communities outside of Bulgaria that are Bulgarian do tend to flock together.
Yeah, and I've noticed that as well with like other like ethnicities as well in countries, you know, like all sorts, like they usually kind of stay together. Like they have their like core community, and
they
then
either love each other or hate each other.
Yeah, basically.
There's nothing in between.
Yeah, for sure. So that was cool. I'm trying to think. There was a lot of people from like the Northwest, which was very interesting, especially in my university. It was actually kind of like a running joke, like how come everybody's coming here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was quite cool.
They had moved specifically for university?
Yeah, for university. So at my university, there was like a specific business school, which was made it quite popular. So a lot of people, most of the Bulgarians that moved over had been doing at that business school. And I was kind of like one of the few people doing computer science. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know you know, the funny thing is, here's one funny thing about university. Usually like there's a stereotype where, you know, people from in the UK, at least when they go to uni, it's like, okay, you know, I'm free now, I'm gonna go drink, I'm gonna have a party and everything. It's so funny because when the Bulgarian people come over and they're like, yeah, I'm kind of over that now. Like I already had 5 years of doing this.
Yeah.
I'm retired.
I noticed this in university as well.
In the same in the US?
Yeah, in the US, like not just specifically with Bulgarians, because I didn't have a very big Bulgarian group in university, but when you go to university, everybody that hasn't done all the partying before, like they're like 18, 19 when they're starting, but you'd say some people have started. Everybody who hasn't, they're like, oh my gosh, it's time. And they're like the first years, you know, but it's interesting. That's an interesting insight about Bulgarians abroad.
It's very funny, yeah.
So then what happened? Kind of like set the scene for us. What was the moment that you realized that you want to live in Bulgaria? Like you want to move here? You actually like saw the opportunity to come back after living in the UK for so long. Yeah,
so actually I had it in my head like for like years that I want to move back eventually, or that was maybe like my fantasy. Ever since I moved to the UK, because I did feel kind of isolated. Like I didn't really, in Bristol specifically, there wasn't many, actually I don't think there was anybody like else my age who was from my country that was like close by. You know, maybe there were other families, you know, we would maybe meet up with my family like every once in a while, but they were like in other neighborhoods and it's all spread out. So I didn't really have anybody from my country that was my age or similar age, like close around.
Okay.
So that was kind of lonely. And I was like, okay, well, I'll move back at some point and I'll be with my friends and like meet other cool people and I'll go back and everything.
Yeah, because you still had your community here as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think at some point I kind of was like, okay, well, maybe I want to stay in the UK for a bit. You know, I wasn't sure. And then COVID happened. So I then, you know, finished university, was living with my family, like started doing like the whole agency thing and building that, saved up some money. And then I actually decided to just go back to Bulgaria just for a few months, you know, just to again see friends, you know, get my driver's license there because, you know, I thought it makes more sense to get it here than I'm not going to be using, like I'm probably going to use public transport if I live in London, for example.
Yeah.
And I remember I went back and a few days later I was looking for like, I just got curious. I'm like, what are the apartments in Plovdiv like? Because Plovdiv is only like 1 hour from my hometown. And I decided to just randomly go on viewings like a few days later and actually found something that I liked. And I'm like, well, I don't really have much. Like, I have like a suitcase with me, so it doesn't take much effort to move. So I guess I'm gonna live here now.
Yeah.
It was
Wow.
very like random.
Very, very.
Yeah, like literally.
Spontaneous, I guess.
Yeah, even my friends are like Gabriel's like living in Plovdiv in Bulgaria. Like, what the hell?
That's very cool. I mean, I think a lot of people have experienced around COVID the like thought
Yeah.
of coming to Bulgaria, but you actually made the choice and decided
Yeah.
to stay.
It didn't really feel like there was much thought behind it. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, but because I didn't, a lot of my, like I said, a lot of my friends at university were international as well, so they'd gone back to their countries. I didn't really have anything to like look after, take care of in like back in the UK, so I was like, well, I can just give it a go here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I've always wanted to, so
Very cool.
it's really funny because after I moved, like for some weird reason, my mom, she's like in the UK, and my aunt and uncle, they said they're in the US. They started mentioning more and more about moving back, and I'm like, you saw me move back, and now like, you want to as well.
Around you, they want
Yeah.
to come. It's kind of like that with me and my sister too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My sister actually first moved like 10 years ago to study, but then she went to the Netherlands to continue studying, working. And then I was like, oh, I could also move. And then my parents were like, oh, we could also move. So it's kind of like started a domino effect.
Yeah. So you'll move to the Netherlands then, or?
No. Sorry, to Bulgaria.
Oh,
like my sister was here. She like opened the idea of people
Yeah.
coming to move in to live in Bulgaria. And even though she was at the time in the Netherlands, I was like, oh, why don't I also try living in Bulgaria?
Okay, right.
So yeah, it was also quite spontaneous for me because I had no plans. I had just graduated university, and I was like, I'll look for jobs
Yeah.
sometime.
Right.
And I had done an internship in Bulgaria the year before,
Right.
for 3 months, and I just got a job offer from the company, and I was like, okay, sure,
Yeah.
why not? I'll do this now.
Awesome.
So kind of similar, yeah.
Interesting. But I bet it must have been more because like UK, Germany, like Netherlands, all these like countries, they're kind of still in Europe. So it's kind of close together. It's only
Yeah,
like you take
yeah.
Wizz Air and you're there in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Whereas the US is like on the other side of the world. If you still have friends there, they're in a different time zone, especially if you're on the West Coast. And like when you're awake, they're still sleeping.
Yeah.
So that must have been a bit more maybe stressful to move back because you're like, you're leaving behind something, and it's not as easy to go back to it if you wanted to.
That's true. Definitely, even though I made the decision in 3 days,
Oh, wow.
afterwards I was like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do now? I have to look for an apartment. I have to get used to life here. There was quite a large culture shock for me.
Oh, really?
Which I didn't expect. Just because I was living alone in Sofia. I had never really stayed in Sofia a lot.
Okay.
So actually, Sofia was the place that my family did not like. So we never stayed here when we came to visit.
Yeah, it's a weird thing with Bulgaria. Like people who don't live in Sofia, a lot of them say they don't like Sofia.
Yeah.
Which is
But
really
Sofia is a
interesting.
great place. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
just needs more infrastructure. But, and yeah, so I did have that whole like I had very little friends. Had to like start over here, learn the ways, learn how to work.
What was the biggest culture shock for you?
I mean, for me, I don't know. It was everything a lot at once. It was not just like living alone for the first time, but also being in a new country alone for the first time. And I mean, I guess I had come like pretty often in the summers and stuff, but maybe just like the way of how to do things here was very different for me, and I just had to get more used to predicting what people would do.
Yeah,
think,
for sure.
and like trying to navigate that.
Yeah.
Because I had a few bad experiences
Yeah.
from somebody breaking my window shield wiper
Wow.
in Ruden, of course,
Oh, okay.
to getting like really sick all of a sudden, and I didn't know what to do. Like I had no idea how the medical system worked.
Yeah.
And this is something actually that I've wanted to kind of kind of create for other people that also want to move back, maybe even from the States. Because when you come here, the culture shock is honestly like it's real, and you don't know what to expect.
Yeah, you have a point. If you don't, because I had like friends and like people to help me, so I had people to ask like questions. I'm like, how do I book a doctor's appointment? Because I didn't know, like genuinely. Because I had like a family doctor, but they're like way back home in the other like place. And I'm like, okay, I'm in this city. Yeah, exactly. I'm in this city, but how do I do it? Like, where do you go?
Yeah. I guess, I am thankful to my coworkers because they were my friends in this time. And
awesome.
They helped me out. It was, so you just learn as you go, but I definitely think it would be great to I don't know, maybe have the program, which we're trying to do through Završtani to share experiences, to help people when they do make the decision to come back here. Eventually, we want to have a platform of Završtani of Bulgaria to create a community so that when people come, they have somebody to ask, you know. Because I think this is probably the biggest culture shock. You just don't know what to expect. And I think that's where people are also hesitant in coming back. But when you have a community,
for sure,
it's much easier.
Yeah, I think for me specifically, it was probably maybe a bit easier because, as I said, like I would come back every summer. I would come back often. I still knew kind of how things were. It still felt kind of close. Whereas if you're maybe in the States and you haven't been there, maybe you go once every like 2 years or something like that because, you know, plane tickets are more expensive and all of this. It probably can be like very different because you're like, one thing that's very different here is there's way more paperwork.
I don't
That's
know.
been my experience.
Yeah, it depends on where you're coming from and the development of infrastructure, I guess. Because there is paperwork, but there is a lot of stuff that is also already digitalized.
Yeah, that's
which,
true.
For example, in Western Europe, like France and Spain, it's not digitalized, and you wait 3 months to make a bank account or whatever.
Oh, okay. So, wow, 3
like
months
to get a debit card from a bank. I've had that experience.
Wow.
But so. It's a good medium, I'd say.
Okay, so it's actually it's better than...
Comparatively a good medium. And even coming from the States, there's stuff here that do happen a lot easier.
Yeah.
Or that at least you can figure it out quicker. Much more quick. So, yeah. In terms of that.
I guess maybe it's also easier to get by because, you know, if you have... As long as you have a community, like there's not much to travel, and then if you're struggling with something, it's always like, you know, I have a guy who has a guy, or like I have a guy for this, I have a guy for that.
This is true. It's quite a network community, like a network culture.
Yeah.
So a lot more than in the States for sure. If you know people and you have a community, it's just much easier, which I think is nice. Yes, corruption comes in hand in that sphere, but to a certain extent, it's nice to be able to have people that you can rely on to help you out.
Yeah.
And that's honestly where I see there's a lot of opportunities in Bulgaria that I wish people knew from abroad, that when you come here, there's just, I feel like so many things that you could do.
Yeah.
And you just have to want to do it, and you'll find a way to do it. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you actually with this, like, is there something that since you've come here, you've like come to notice that you wish Bulgarians abroad knew about life in Bulgaria? Stuff that were either challenges or stuff that you were like pleasantly surprised that you could experience here?
Let me think.
Like, what are 3 things that you wish Bulgarians abroad knew about life in Bulgaria?
I think that it's not like so scary or like, oh, you know, Bulgaria is like, it's so far behind. And in some aspects, yes, there's things that happen slower, but it's pretty Western at this point. In the main cities, you know, I'm just talking about maybe Sofia and Plovdiv and maybe some other major cities.
Yeah.
It's very comfortable place to live in. So I lived in Plovdiv for like a year and a half. I mean, first of all, every time I wake up and I see, because the UK is like always so rainy, I'm like, oh my God, there's sun, like, thank God.
Yeah.
So that was a blessing.
Yeah.
And, you know, transportation is not like, you know, taxis are fairly affordable, for example, if you need to go somewhere like very urgent. Transportation is actually okay, you know, obviously Sofia has like an underground. It's quite reliable.
It's very nice compared to other cities.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I only know.
You just got to Sofia, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
telling you, it's very nice.
I mean, I've been to the subway in New York. I think the one in Sofia is much cleaner.
Oh, very clean.
Yeah.
Compared to Paris, it's very clean. Compared to Barcelona, it's like spotless.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's true.
Yes.
That's true. So it's still Sofia, for example, is quite Western actually. Sure, like maybe there's old buildings, but like every city has that, you know. Every city has its like negatives, and I don't think it's that much far behind. I think I got told that it ranked in top 5 places, for example, for digital nomads or something like that.
Yes, actually, yeah. Not only Sofia, but I also know that Bansku is a very big digital nomad hub.
Yeah, I've noticed
that. They have a lot
that.
of co-working spaces, co-living. A lot of digital nomads go there.
Yeah, I've heard about that, and I was like, I didn't even know Bansko had that sort of culture, which is very, maybe they like the mountains in the summer or in the winter, but it's very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say, well, I lost my train of thought, but I'll remember it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning how Sofia is much more Western than people think it is.
Yeah,
which
for
is
sure.
true, but I also see the charm in it being not so Western.
Yeah.
In that it just, for example, like there's about 2 million people living here, but it doesn't feel like a ginormous city.
No, not at all.
It feels like you can walk outside and you see people that you know and like say hi or go out for a coffee.
Yeah.
It's like much nice.
You still have space to breathe. It's not like go, 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 go.
Yeah. Was it like that? How was it in Plovdiv? Because most of your time was there.
Yeah, it was very, very chill. I know that people in Plovdiv, for example, they don't want to go to Sofia because they're like, it's very like fast paced. I don't really see the difference, to be honest, but it's very calm, very beautiful, if you have a family, for example, I think it'd be a great place to live.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I know Plovdiv is one of my favorite cities in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
There's just so much history there, so much culture, so much to just learn.
I do wish there were more events, but I think that's like slowly starting to develop more and more.
Okay, yeah. That is something in smaller cities that's like there's not as many events.
Yeah.
In Sofia, there's always events going on, something happening. But I do just appreciate that Plovdiv is, a city with quite a lot of people, but there's so much like history that is visible that we kind of take advantage of because we take for granted. I mean, because there's not so many cities in the world that can say they're one of the oldest cities in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
So and you can see like ruins from the Romans, ruins from the Thracians.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very unique about it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not even like there's still like opportunities for work. Like, for example, I have friends there who run a company like an e-commerce company that operates in over 30 European countries and also in the US and I think maybe other places as well. Their headquarters are in Plovdiv.
Yeah.
They want to stay there.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think that companies are noticing more and more that they don't have to be based in Sofia to be successful. And I hope that continues to happen because there's so many beautiful cities in Bulgaria, like Veliko Târnu, Burgas, Yambu, which is where my family's from.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I have a friend in Burgas as well. He's he runs his own company, employees and everything. Their office is based in Burgas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's the company called?
Bellbox.
Bellbox. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I did remember what I was gonna say regarding where I had forgotten. It's interesting because I had some friends that came from London to Sofia like a few months ago, like in September, just to visit because, they'd never visited Bulgaria. They were curious. And it's funny because they told me on the plane, they weren't sure like how it's going to go. They knew nothing about the country. They were like, are we going to go to like some third world place and it's going to be horrible?
Yeah.
And actually on the day they came and, we're walking on Vitushka, and they're like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, it's way nicer than we expected. Like, it actually looks like a very nice place to live. Like, to the point where they were telling me like, dude, we're kind of actually jealous. Like, this is so nice. And it's so like, compared to London where it's all gray and like it's busy and there's like space to breathe here.
There's space to breathe. There's people to get to know. There's
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is something that I have heard from people that just come to visit here as well. They like the more laid backness, I guess. So that they're not always in a hurry for somewhere,
Yeah.
and like stuff is getting done, but it's not like like constantly somebody pushing you or pulling you somewhere.
Yeah, or being in like an underground or subway where it's like literally stuffed to the brim.
Yeah. This is something that I also really appreciate about Sofia.
Yeah.
So moving on to our next question. What is the impact on your life of you living in Bulgaria? Is there like stuff related to work, personal achievements, social life? Like what would you say is the impact of you moving to Bulgaria on stuff around
For
you?
me, it's probably social life because I met like a lot of people in the past year here.
Mm-hmm.
I've made like a lot of connections, and mostly through like online communities where we would have these online communities, but then we do real life meetups like every 2 weeks, for example.
Yeah.
Both like in Plovdiv, in Sofia, and other cities. And it was very accessible to meet people that like-minded people that we shared like the same values, and like we had the same ideas, maybe similar goals. So I would say social life definitely. Like I met a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And there's a lot of people here that want to progress. They're very creative. They're very technical as well. Actually, very like educated in terms of like IT related things compared to, maybe the UK. At least that's my impression. When I speak to people here, they know many things. I'm like, whoa, like you guys like know your stuff.
Kind of learned everything.
Yeah, for sure. People are like really educated here,
Uh-huh.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
And they have like opinions. They have views on different like things that are going on in the world. And, it's really cool. It's definitely not like what the typical media portrayal is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like you can have all types of conversations with people here. Like it's much easier to have a conversation, I'd say. There's not so much things that they would get offended about or be controversial about.
Which is the cool thing about being in Eastern Europe, because there's not like that whole, I guess the woke culture hasn't caught up yet too much.
Yeah.
And there's more, a bit more freedom of speech here.
Yeah, I'd say like you can say what you think and nobody's going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that.
Yeah, like people they're not going to be like, oh my God, I'm super offended. Like, yeah.
Which, I also think is like, I appreciate.
Yeah, and they're open to have a debate, and they're like, if you don't agree, they're open to actually argue out and like come to a mutual understanding, or disagree to disagree. Or agree to disagree. Yeah, agree to disagree.
Yeah. I mean, also, you said you started your agency in the UK, right?
Yeah.
So how has it been, or has it had any effect on your agency moving into Bulgaria?
Not really. I mean, taxes, maybe less taxes, but not really, because everything's kind of remote. So or the people that we work with all work remotely. So it hasn't really had any impact. And that's the cool thing, for example, with online things like online business or online work, that you can, you can be in Bulgaria and still earn a good income. For the standards here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you basically manage everything online, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But I think also that, because, that can be easily said like, oh, okay, well, you work online. That's easy for you to say. I still think there are opportunities for, even if it's not online, like digital work, like marketing or like programming or whatever. I think there's still opportunities to develop in other aspects, because again, like I'm part of these communities that, work gets advertised regularly, like people with their businesses, they're looking for this or that. And it's not just digital businesses where they're like a restaurant, like a food business. Like there's opportunities for other types of work as well, as far as I've seen.
Yeah. And they're looking for young people coming back, for example, or people from abroad deciding to move back because they're bringing in different ideas, different standards, different like... this is something that I've noticed just because I was working in a corporate sphere, I guess, that I get like you can offer the ideas that you have because they're different from, they might be different from what they're expecting. And of course it's up to the company to accept or decline those ideas.
For sure.
But I think it's definitely valued. which is great. There's many, I feel like, opportunities that people just overlook and don't realize.
Yeah, and there's a lot more, there's more and more communities forming in terms of like whether it's voluntary or not, or yeah, it's just growing. It is growing, which is really cool to see.
Yeah. And I guess so, like in the next 5 years, what change would you like to see for yourself and in Bulgaria?
Sure. I do have one thing on my mind. I don't have any ideas maybe like politically or anything like this right now. But so for example, I dance as like a hobby. So like doing hip hop and things like that. And recently I attended an event which was hosted in Sofia. So it was a dance camp and they had around 24 choreographers or something like this.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, but there was like a lot of people from abroad. So, people from like Netherlands, from other, I think maybe Africa or South Africa, I'm not sure.
Wow.
But, people that, when I looked them up on Instagram, I'm like, okay, these are actually legit people. They're going to other places. Like they brought them here in Bulgaria and they're building the reputation of the place, which is so cool to see, and something that's like, okay, yeah, we're known for like the IT sector, like programmers and all of this, but it's something completely different and like important for me. So I'd love to be like part of the change in terms of like the artistic side as well.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
that development, and like putting Bulgaria on the map in that.
Yeah, to have more communities around, maybe dancing, more investment in it.
Yeah, actually, even with music as well. So I only found this out like last week, but I didn't know this. So for example, in the K-pop industry, there's a song recently that came out called Rover by this artist called Kai. And actually that song, that blew up. It's so popular, but it's based from a Bulgarian song from the singer Dara. So
Hold up.
yeah. So that's like an
Interesting.
adaptation. So something on like a worldwide level was taken from a Bulgarian like production team.
Awesome. I did not know about that. I have not been into the K-pop sphere in quite a while.
Yeah, for sure. So there's like things going on in Bulgaria that are, being appreciated worldwide.
Yeah. I mean, we also know about Bulgarian yogurt being
Yeah.
appreciated so much in Japan, which is awesome.
Yeah, I studied a bit of Japanese at university. When I told the teacher about I'm from Bulgaria, she's like, "Oh, I love your yogurt."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's great that more and more Bulgaria is being recognized with such like good things that are unique to Bulgaria.
Yeah.
I feel like the negative press is slowly being put to the side, and I hope that through our podcast, through Back to Bulgaria, and everything else that is happening in Bulgaria, there's all types of organizations that are trying to, or like supporting the change in, I guess, reputation and expectations of, I guess, Bulgaria as a country and what it has to offer to the world.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just now like being tapped into, which is really exciting.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think after like COVID, especially, everything became more digital and like more widespread, and it's easier to get like people's messages across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, we have one last thing up our sleeves, and that is to draw from our bowl of questions.
Oh, wow.
There are only 3 left because we've used some of our previous ones.
Okay.
But go ahead and draw one and read it out loud for us. And
okay, I'll take this one.
Let us know your answer.
Okay. Have you been to any villages? Describe one village that made you feel happy. Let me think. Villages. Awkward silence. I haven't been to any recently. I have my grandparents' village, which, we go back to every now and then. So I have like fond memories of that.
Yeah.
Which is also a cool thing about here, because I don't think other countries have this as much. Like here in Bulgaria, everybody's grandparents have like a village somewhere. So
Yeah,
there's
most
somewhere to
people.
go to and get like fresh fruit and vegetables and, do things that are not related to like city work,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like
yeah,
be a
yeah.
bit more in touch with nature.
In nature, have some good fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Like, I just love the vegetables that are from the village.
Yeah, the tomatoes especially.
Yes.
Like people from other countries who say I hate tomatoes, I'm like, it's because you haven't had a real
Yeah,
one.
exactly. I've had friends from university come and they tried the strawberries and the tomatoes.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, before they try them, they're like, I don't really like it, or
Yeah.
It's just a strawberry. But when they try it, they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't lived until now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's really good food.
For sure.
Yeah. So what village are your grandparents from?
Partizanin.
Partizanin.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's that?
That's near Chirpan.
Chirpan, which is in.
Which is around. I think it's in Starosgora Oblast.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So you have memories that's like from childhood there.
Yeah, exactly. And like for recently, maybe when we've gone there to do like just help out with some things.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah. I love villages in Bulgaria because, yeah, like you said, it's just a place to go to escape, but also there's people who have really great lives and live in villages and build themselves a house. That's what my parents are doing now.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
common actually. Like for people, their parents to build a house somewhere, kind of a bit, not in the city. But actually, I do remember. So as I mentioned, I have friends who have like an e-commerce company in Plovdiv. So they were holding like a team building last summer, which they invited me to because I helped them out with a few things. So that was really cool because it was it was near Bansko. It was around, I think, Selo Banja.
Uh-huh.
But it was more like a bio like getaway. So it was like a bio-hija, something
Okay.
like that.
Cool.
So they had, these, I don't know how to say hija in English.
Lodges.
Yeah, lodges.
Or huts.
Yeah. But it was really cool because everything in that place was like all bio, like all organic, it was all like natural. So it's like, you even have things like that, which is really cool because you get to, you get to go to the mountains and, be on a getaway, kind of be with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this like bio-tourism, I guess, or
Yeah.
agricultural tourism
Yeah.
is developing. Overall, it's a trend in the world, but it's very nice in Bulgaria because it's already existing. You just got to go there.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so nice because you have these options. If do you want to go to the mountains? Okay, it's like 2 hours drive. Do you want to go to the sea? Okay, you can go to our sea. You can go to Greece. You can go to like somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to Turkey if you want to.
Everything's at your fingertips. here.
Exactly, which is amazing.
Yes.
Like not many other countries have that.
Yeah, it's something that I appreciated. Wish more people appreciated, but people are recognizing it more and more, which is great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to thank you, Gabriel, for being on our podcast. Thank you for just going on the whim and deciding to be part of it.
Thank you for inviting
It
me.
was very cool.
Yeah, this was really fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So I wish you success with your business and
Yeah, likewise with your podcast. I hope
Thank
it grows
you.
a lot.
Thank you. I know you just moved to Sofia, so
Yeah.
I hope it welcomes you with open arms. And yeah, thank you everybody for listening to our podcast. If you liked what you heard and you enjoyed our conversation, make sure to give us a like and follow us on whatever podcasting platforms you are on. And please share it with whoever you think might be interested. If you have Bulgarian friends or you just know people who are looking for a cool place to live, make sure to share it with them and let us know what you think also in the comments. See you guys next time and go out and do something awesome today.